Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ask Muso podcast, brought to you by Yellow Music. Now, I'm very excited tonight. I'm bringing the Ask Muso podcast back to its roots of me chatting shit with one of my favorite drummers. That's pretty much how this is how this whole thing started. So, look, I've done Dan Kirby, we've got David Parks. If you're looking at the Melbourne music scene and you want a drummer that's the business, and you've already spoken to them, well, then you need Leon Kechayas, and I've got him on the other side of the line today. So, Leon, take it, mate, and kick us off.
Oh, man, that was a beautiful intro. Wow. So I can't talk. This is my first time.
At least one of us was on the ball to start with.
Dang it, I messed it up from the start. No, honestly, thanks, man. It's an honor to be on your podcast, man. I'm watching a few of the latest ones you've done, and it's really exciting. So, yeah, I think this is like my first proper podcast, so I'm honoured to be here, and you know, with you and all the other guys that you just mentioned, that's pretty cool. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's a pretty sick club, I'll be honest. Like the haters could have said that I did peak early while talking to Dan about like Bliss and Esso and all those things in season 1. But, look, I continue to increase the quality every week. So I suppose where to even begin with you? Obviously, it's a shame right off the bat you're so shy. That's going to be a hurdle for the next 45 minutes. But we'll work through it. We'll do our best, as is our right. We'll do our best. But you tell me where it starts. Where does music start for you? Is it always the tubs? Is there something else? Everyone talented in the family? How does it all kick off?
Oh man, wow! My dad is a drummer, so that's where I got that side of my musical inclination from. But I've got other family members who also play a range of different instruments: bass guitar, keys, drums as well. I've got another cousin that plays drums. But yeah, so for me, really, I mean, at home it started with my dad teaching me how to play, ever since I can remember. So, and then pretty much that's all I can do well. Like I can play a little bit of piano, and I can sing in the shower really well.
Fantastic.
Just not live. Some of the boys I play with at the moment, they're like, you got to do BVs. I'm like, nah, man, I got to practice in the shower a bit more before I get on that. But yeah,
no, it's a skill to figure out what you got to do with your face. I was chatting about this with Adam Heath from the NXS Tribute Show and stuff, and so their drummer Noel, he wears a headset, and I don't does the 2006 Britney Spears. I don't. We love you, Noel. I don't do that. I just accept that I've just got to turn my head to the left in order to make it work. So when I practice, I always practice with my head to the left, and I've just gotten good at figuring out where all the drums are. Lucky it doesn't move, mate. Fucking lucky that the drums don't move for us. So I just basically figure out where it's all going to be and then just focus on the singing. Because, like hitting the bell of the ride, trying to sing harmonies, come to a Justice Trio show because I'm figuring it out every single time I do it. It's a guess every time.
Oh, dude. Playing drums and singing is not easy. Like, look at guys like Nolan, like Jason Hira, incredible vocalist, incredible drummer, and he's doing it at the same time, especially with his own original music. I think I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, but Otnik Groove, his original stuff, it's all like that reggae. That's my favorite. Well, my best impersonation of that music.
I was there. I felt like I was there, mate. I felt like I was on stage.
Yeah, it's got that real heavy, like
super syncopated
reggae vibe, and he's singing over that, and it's just incredible. So, I mean, obviously that's like a few more steps up from what most do, but like I mean, drumming itself is pretty crazy, and then like being able to sing, like I take my hat off to anyone that can do that because it's not easy, and it's really cool. And it's another skill. It's something that I would like to work on more myself, but Not yet. No, that's fair. Well, so I suppose from there, there's there's lots of places to go from there. But like, you started like, when did you maybe start taking it seriously? I don't like to say that, but like, when did you start going, this is something that is more than just a bit of fun? I'm not just pretty good at it. I clearly have something here that I can run with and make a long-term thing. When did we sort of jump over to that level? Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I mean, I did my first kind of like band concert. Well, I was in my first band when I was in primary school with some of my best mates, which I'm still friends with today. And we had like a Battle of the Bands School of Rock kind of little thing happening at school and in the metropolitan area of Melbourne, with all the schools would come together and perform like once a year at this event. And that was like my first taste of playing on a stage in front of a live audience. But you know, I was probably only in like grade 5 or something like that. So I don't know, like 10 or 11 years old, maybe even a little bit younger when I started that. So I kind of knew like it was something that I could do, but it probably wasn't until when I was in high school in like year 10, I did the Victorian State School Spectacular, which is a pretty big kind of concert that's still ongoing now, where, you know, like I got my first chance to play it like in an arena and meet mentors who I'm still friends with today, such as Jerry Pantazis, fantastic drummer, Chong Lim, Craig Newman on bass, all those guys, they were our mentors for it. And then, when I did that, that was like, oh, wow, okay. So, like, you're going to spend 6 months of the year practicing with a whole orchestra and a band, learning how to play all these different styles of songs and genres of music. And you get to play at the end of the year at an arena, and it's like the most incredible feeling ever. And that was in my mind when I went, oh yeah, okay, I'm good at this, I can do it. And maybe, you know, looking up to guys like Jerry, it's like, okay, I can maybe make this a thing, you know, once I finish high school. And then that's pretty much what I did, man. Once I finished high school, I was lucky enough to meet a group of guys and go on the road pretty much straight away. Like a couple months after I finished high school, we went on a tour up the east coast of Australia. And that was like, first moment. We were making money, and like, you know, it was obviously, it's not about the money, but it was like, oh, okay, like we can do this. And then it just grows from there, you know, like you have little things that happen along the way. But those few moments, like starting in primary school, I'm like, okay, I can do this. Then high school, it's like, oh, wow, you can actually go and play big venues and, you know, do this kind of stuff with a lot of different people, meeting those mentors. And then finishing high school and then going on the road, it was like, all right, this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, straight to the business end as well. Like my sister did, she danced and did some songs in State School Spectacular. So I was around it. I went to the show when it was whatever that was it Telstra Dome, High Sense, whatever the arena was called at that time.
Yeah,
I remember
High
going,
Sense.
you know, when I was very pretty young. I was only still in primary school, maybe just in high school. She did it a couple of times, and I remember going, wow, so much to look at. Like, wow, there's so many things going on. And I was like, wow, to be behind the tubs there, because I'd only been playing. I picked it up in grade 5 properly, and I would have been, grade 5 or 6 or maybe year 7 or something. So it was super fresh to me, but I was like really hungry for it. So to be able to be like, man, to be a part of that band and, you know, see John Farnham on the TV and I used to go to with Mum and Dad to the Royal Children's Hospital, the Good Friday Pill.
Oh, wow.
And you go into the Good Friday Pill audience and you're like, oh, look at these guys doing it on the TV. Like they're playing to a theatre at MSAC to lots of people. And then on top of that, on top of playing at like the convention centre, you're also playing to the TV. And I was like, that's crazy to me, you know? And I was like, how can I be part of that world?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because, all those guys on the Good Friday Appeal, that's the same group of people that were our mentors at School Spec. And like, it's awesome. And they're all lovely. You know, I think the thing is too, I shouldn't forget to mention that because I take pride in this being a teacher as well, is, you know, the teachers that I had in primary school and high school, but mainly I had a teacher by the name of Mr. T who passed away a few years ago, tragically. But in primary school, he was the music teacher, and he was just like the best teacher I've ever had. Really gave us that opportunity and that inspiration to like play music, you know, and it my point is, I guess, the teachers along the way too, like when you've got someone, not only, your parents, or whoever it may be, but when you've got someone else that you look up to, especially from a young age, like pushing you to do whatever it is you want to do, that makes a huge difference as well. Because like for me, Mr. T, when I was in primary school, was like a huge influence on me. And then my dad, of course, and then the teachers I had along the way, in terms of drums as well. Like I've been very fortunate enough to, stay friends with pretty much everyone that's helped me out along the way. And I feel like when I teach students myself, I want to do the same. That's how I teach in my mind. Is you got to give back, because you don't know like what impact you're going to have on someone. And it's even if I'm teaching a student and maybe they don't end up becoming a drummer, but just the mindset thing. I'm really big on that whole mindset thing, whatever you want to call it. Like you've got to just try and surround yourself with people who are gonna lift you up and give you good criticism as well. Like I think that's a really good thing. It's good to have people there that are gonna hold you accountable in a positive way. But ultimately, if they do that, that's going to lift you up. And when you got those people around you, it's just like it's life changing. And that's what I try to do my best when I meet people. And just talk to people or get messages on Instagram. Whatever it is, like it really goes a long way. Being kind to people and just lifting other people up, because you don't know the effect it'll have on that person. And without a doubt, it'll have some kind of positive effect. Even if it's really small, it's still a step forward. If it's positive, it's progress, you know what I mean? So that's how I like to look at it too. So I just wanted to add that in, just those teachers and anyone that's like pushing you forward and that's a huge thing too. I mean, like that's almost more than half of it, besides the hard work you got to put in. It's like having those people around you. It's huge,
Absolutely, because there's two things I want to mention on that. You have the just the sheer numbers of hours that you spend at school with whoever's teaching lessons, stuff like that. You have the sheer amount of hours that are being spent with them. So as much as like, the parents' encouragement, oh really, Leon, I really want you to get behind the kit. You enjoy it and all this. This leads into my next part. If you just have teachers who are like happy to enable it, that's cool. That's fine. But enabling is an encouragement. And to have someone who's enthusiastic about you and being like, man, I love that you love this. How can we make this happen for you? You seem like you're having a ball. I heard about this thing you might be interested in. Let's make it happen. Or you get your drum teacher is like, look, there's these opportunities. I know it's something that you're getting really good at. I think this is something we could strive towards. And that enthusiasm to take, like I was talking about with a mate of mine, Geordie, he was telling me about just the idea of enthusiasm and being keen and being there and being present is cool, but enthusiasm, if these people like you, Mr. T, they're enthusiastic, they take you under their wing and be like, yeah, I am so invested in you and you're invested in what you want to do and how can we make this happen for you? I remember distinctly so many times where someone's been enthusiastic, like just music, podcast, drumming related, just that small window. And they're memorable from whether it was 3 months ago or 3 years ago. Because as you say, that positive impact. You remember that stuff when someone's super keen. Like perhaps with the exception of the story, I go back to some good episodes I've had with Dan Kirby and with David Parks. They were keen to be a part of it. It wasn't like, oh, hey guys, you guys are like pretty good at stuff. Can I do this? And they're like, yeah, that should be fine. Tuesday's free. They were enthusiastic. That's what I remember. Like the episode was great and I watch it back, but the enthusiasm's the bit you remember.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like, oh man, Dan and speaking of those guys, man, Dan and Dave, like how incredible are those guys? Not just like, I mean, playing wise, we don't even have to talk about it. Obvious. I mean, just like the best, but also like the person that they both are. Like yourself too, man. Like it's huge. Like you said, that's memorable. I mean, it's like you want to hang out with these people. and that's a huge thing. When you're playing gigs, when you go on tour, it's not only about the music and the talent and the dedication to that side of things, but like, who you are as a person, man. Like, you'll get hired more because of, that you're a really good hang and easy to work with. Well, I shouldn't say more, but it's just as important. You know what I mean? If you're a really good hang, good to be around, easy to work with, people will give you a chance.
Exactly. I was chatting about this with another fantastic drummer, Jed McIntosh. He was talking about the fact that, opportunities that come up. Exactly. The fact that you got that sort of energy, and we talked about, it's not just who you know and being good, it's how you conduct yourself, how you are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's giving me this, if I want to throw a dart at a board of people who are good at drums, who knows what I'm going to hit? But that's not what it's all about. And like, I think about these stages you're playing on, the King of Pop show, which I'd love to talk more about, the stuff that you do with Reese and all those things. There's so many people that could do that. Like, there's so many people that could play those parts, but there's your point of difference. And as a marketer for a living, the point of difference thing, your point of difference is, like with these other guys, you're genuine, your attitude's in the right spot, and your intent and what you bring is more than just making up the numbers.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, dude, it's so true. Like, I can't agree with you more. Like, there are so many great players out there, so many that can do those gigs, absolutely. But it comes down to combination of both things, and ultimately that's what I try to work on every day is not only the playing but the other things as well, because there's so many great players out there, and yeah, like you said, if you were to throw a dartboard, man, you don't know who you're going to land on, but chances are that person's going to be able to nail the gig. But like, what else do you have quality wise that people are going to look into? It's huge. It's so important. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. That's absolutely spot on.
Well, then how does that sort of lead into the things I sort of just name dropped there? Like, how did you get into the doing stuff with Reese Maston? Like, how was that? Because that's been something that I've enjoyed watching grow and cultivate over the last little while. How did that all sort of come to be?
Yes. So this is another thing of like, who you meet along the way and, what develops over time. So basically to kind of condense it, I was working at a music shop with my good buddy, Ben Kremer, who's a fantastic drummer. And I had introduced him to a few people in Melbourne because like just before COVID, he had come to Melbourne from WA, from Perth. And then that developed. He started doing some gigs with these people, and eventually he got the gig with Reese Maston taking over from Reese's drummer, Mitch Rogers, who is another incredible drummer in person because he moved back to Canberra. So Ben took that spot. And then going into this year, Ben ended up getting another gig playing for Josh Owen, supporting James Rain of Aussie Crawl all around the country. And so basically, there were lots of gigs lined up. Ben had been doing the Reese gig for about a year and a half, from halfway through 2022 to the end of last year. And so it just ended up being that, through knowing Ben, being a good mate, and we all kind of knew the same people, basically I ended up, taking over his seat for him. And that's kind of how it happened. It was through my buddy Ben. He went to go on another gig, so then I, jumped in there, and ever since it's been awesome. So I started with them at the end of last year. The bass player Adam, I had known for a few years in Melbourne. I've done a few gigs with him prior to playing with Reese, some bar gigs and all that. And Kim on guitar, I also worked at the music shop with, so he was in the guitar department. So we kind of all knew each other, and that kind of thing. And it really works out well because, like just the other day, I had a King of Pop show which had been booked in for, well over a year. And Ben has been really busy this year and still is playing with Josh Owens. But it just so happened to be that he was free on that night. So it was kind of cool because he came back in to the Reese gig seamlessly and got to play that gig again while I went and did the King of Pop show. And, it was like, so it's pretty cool. We've got like this kind of crew now that, if anyone can't make it, we can basically just fit the other puzzle piece back in and it kind of works really well. And it's a blessing because, everyone, we're all good mates. The whole crew's great. And so that's kind of basically like a roundabout way of telling you how I got that Reese gig. It was like through people that you know what I mean? Like it's
a musical family, and the musical family continues to grow. And as you say, you chop and change, and the people come in and out and stuff. But there's something about, and I think I've said this from day one that I think there's definitely something about how we do business, how the drummers do business. By and large, I just think there's a certain etiquette that we just have. I don't know what it is. I can't necessarily speak for other instrumentalists, but I just know from experience in 2 states of what our etiquette is like as drummers, and just looking at just that family connection, and it really is, the flooded waters raise all boats sort of thing. Like everyone is raising each other up, and I see you saying, in between sound checks at the King of Pop show, you're like, oh, Ben, look, have a good night tonight, mate. Shred it with Reese and the boys. It's like, this is the epitome of why, like, I like people to be able to find their next favorite artist and be aware of people they might not be aware of. But this is really the epitome of why I love doing this show with people like yourself, is because it's the best of the people. Because once you say, like, there's a lot of people that can play drums, but if they're not any good to talk to or anything like that, well, this sort of falls pretty flat, and having that connection, that community, and that like family that you've sort of built and continue to build and all that, it's invaluable, and it makes it way more fun.
Absolutely, man. That's the thing. We gotta lift each other up. Like, there's a lot of people, but it's a small community, if that kind of makes sense. I grew up in Melbourne, and obviously being in Melbourne, we had so many of those, Australian drummer weekends, held, at not far from my house. And, that was awesome because you'd have, name any drummer I've probably seen them at one of these weekends as I was growing up, once a year. And that was huge because the drumming community, I know they would do tours around the country too on like, if Weckl came out, they'd do like a Dave Weckl tour sometimes if they were able to do that. But basically, the community is so tight. And then, naturally, like a lot of things, when the world ended, COVID, some of those things stopped and have yet to resume just because, obviously there's a lot of logistics and a lot of things have changed since. But, my point is, growing up in that culture, it's one thing that I'll do everything to try and keep going, keep it going, I guess, because like it was so crucial for my development, playing wise, but also meeting other people, like-minded people. It's just, we can't let it go. And things like this, it's just awesome to hear different people's stories and just chat about experiences because it's all relative, it's, you get what I'm saying, No,
100%. Like, I started this not as like obviously it was during the cough, so it was big scary times, but it was more like I wanted to give people, like our people, an outlet to not only take their mind off the fact that their craft, their thing they really love, they're not doing, not only to just forget about that, but also to be like, how many times has someone outside of just, oh yeah, good set, mate, do you want me to help you with these cymbals? Outside of that, how many times have someone actually said, I'd like to know more about you or your songs, or I love that you're a bit of a storyteller on stage. And when's the last time someone actually asked you that? And 9.9 times out of 10, it was never, or it was once. And, I've actually noticed this season, there's a few people that I've been lucky enough to catch up with that have been super enthusiastic, that have done any number of exciting things, like not only just yourself. And they're saying, oh, this is sort of the first time I've sort of done this, or this is the sort of the first time I've spoken about this. And I didn't think you'd necessarily ask me that, but I'm so glad you did, because I never really thought to tell that story. Those sorts of things, those tidbits in between songs, that's cool, but I want to get to know the people, because it's much like a podcast as a medium. It's a chance for, I think I was saying on an episode recently that it's like listening to two people that you like having a conversation on the couch, and you're just cooking dinner at the bench. You're not involved, but you can hear everything they're saying and you agree with what they're saying, but you're just not really involved. You're just secondary. That's the way I want to treat it, that you can be a fly on the wall whilst I find out how much of a loose unit Leon is on tour. That you get to be a part of it, but you just look, you're just supervising.
Yeah, that's right. That was a really, my messed up. Can we swear on this? Or maybe
oh God, yeah. I think I might have already done that. I don't know.
Yeah.
You haven't watched enough episodes if you don't know I can swear.
Yeah. Well, my fucked up mind is thinking, how that was a great way to describe that. Being, like a fly on the wall, you can, you're involved, you can hear everything, but you kind of just not, and I'm just thinking like, they say people in comas are kind of the same. Not that I'm making, a joke about that.
So this is going to put you to sleep. Leon thinks this is similar to being in a coma. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's another great episode. Sorry for everyone who's not still awake, which I assume is 90% of the audience. Jeez.
You know what I mean? Like, anyway,
if it's a non-emergency, 131 665. If it's an emergency, 000. Jesus Christ.
For the record, I actually can't believe I just said that. For the record, you want to be, you know what? Let's just leave.
Let's just leave it like that. For the record, I don't know if you're going to bring your own shovel or if you want to use one of mine, but you're welcome to keep going. For the record, I genuinely don't even know the point you're trying to make, so please actually attempt. I'll stop being a dick.
How you were saying, like, it's important, to... You want to be able to listen to it kind of like... I actually don't even know what I was going to say. Let's just move past. See, this is what I'm saying. You gave me a door to walk through. I walked through it and I fell over.
Yeah. No, yeah. It was a single story, and you went, man, these stairs are steep. And I was like, brother, we're downstairs. It's a single story. But that's okay. That's fine. And for those coma listeners, welcome back, okay?
Yeah,
welcome back.
Welcome back.
Bailey Walker, who edits this, put a siren in or something to wake everyone up.
They can hear everything we say is what I'm saying. It's important,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They don't have to be engaged. They're just passively there. Yeah, well, the thing is, for me, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, just to bring it back to business, because look, it's show business, Leon. I think a lot of people are forgetting the business. Okay,
let's bring it back to the business.
I not anything to do with this show, but like I prefer podcasts in the car. For me, I'm obviously listening to music all the time, playing music, rehearsing stuff. I find that it's a nice palate cleanser to actually be a part of conversations that I'm interested in. So music, funny comedy, things like that. Like the other day I was actually listening to a podcast with Reese that he did with Luke Kidgel and Meg. And he was talking about touring and Sony and X Factor and all those scary things in his prior time. And now what he's doing now with you guys and loving being with the band and all that stuff. And I find that it's really engaging. And for you, like obviously it's one thing to the next. You're never playing the same thing for more than one night in a row, which is great because, think about the MJ show you're doing with the King of Pop is such a completely different thing and such a big show. And then you're doing the stuff with Reese in anywhere from the Suki Lounge to up in New South Wales or something, anything you could be doing. How do you have a bit of a breather time where you're like, I'm going to have to not, I've done enough music. I've played drums. I've tuned my kits enough times. I need a bit of a breather. It's like, does that happen?
Absolutely. I don't actually listen to a lot of music like outside of playing, which sounds really weird. But I guess. Well, hang on. Let me re-explain. I do listen to a lot of music, but when I've got shows coming up where I need to be going over the music again or learning it for the first time, I don't listen to any other music just because, I don't know, just for me personally, I like to just focus on one thing at a time. And I also believe in like over practicing or over listening. I also believe in that too for myself. Because I've found in the past, we all get sometimes, just goes by the way we're feeling. We might be, playing a lot and listening to it and, practicing it a lot and we feel good and everything just sinks in. Other times I've had the opposite where it doesn't matter how much I go over it. I've gotten to the rehearsal and like had a blank, and it's not necessarily got to do with like, I'm not sure if it's got to do with, retaining that information or just, how you're feeling on the day, like mental distractions that you're not aware of, that you take your mind off it. But what I've found to like exercise my brain and my memory is to be really focused when I'm having to learn something or go over something again if it's been a while. Like be really focused in that and then just like play it enough to where I feel comfortable and then take a break.
Yep.
Take a break for a couple hours, or if I feel like I've done enough for that day, I'll take a break and come back the next day and then just try and play it straight through and like test myself to see how, can I play it straight through and remember it well or not? And that's what I've been doing more of in the last year, and it's really helped me. It goes, it's different for everyone else, of course, but I do believe in, like for me, over practicing and over listening. So that's why when I'm learning stuff, I like to just stick to that music and only that music. And it just helps me just focus on it. And like you said too, when I'm driving, I don't listen to the radio. If I put music on, it's my Spotify playlist, or podcasts. I like listening to podcasts because, I'm surrounded by music all the time, which is great. I wouldn't have it any other way, but it's also good to, listen to other things as well. Could be podcast, could be this podcast, could be podcasts about UFOs. I love that shit. Joe Rogan, love that, working drummer podcasts, everything. I don't listen to any true crime stories.
Yeah, see, that's my girlfriend's Erin thing. That's her thing, Erin Frost.
Right.
It'll be something like, I'll just get in the car and it'll automatically start when we get the car into the car, and it's like... And then the knife came straight through her sphincter, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, Erin, what are you listening to?
Wow.
She's like, no, there's context. There's context. He's called like the ass killer. It's like a thing, and I'm like, cool. I've come in at the 27 minute mark, and I'm like, I need Jesus, mate. I don't know what I've missed here. This is.
Oh man, if you're an ass killer, you definitely need Jesus. There's some things you do, and there's some things that you don't have to do.
Business. Well, I was actually interested in you say what you're going to say, though. I couldn't agree more. I absolutely relate to everything you've just said. And part of that, it triggered in my brain the moment you said about State School Spectacular, and you said, you're doing 6 months, and then you get on the big arena stage and all this. My instant thought was visibly ill 6 months practice, because I really get that over practice thing. I want to be sitting in a rehearsal setup of maybe like a couple before a show, depending on like what the show is, for instance, because I want to do my practice. I want to have my bits on lock and things. But there comes a point where, and you get this, as you know, when you get people who are at a high level, they understand that practice is for your parts and rehearsals for everyone else's. And they need to realize that if they're not there yet, that's a them thing. We don't need to rehearse 7 more times that week because we've all got it down. You need to do your bit. And I feel that the feeling of that 6 month practice, and I did a ghost note that shouldn't have been there. I actually found that in high school, particularly with my end of year exam, where obviously no one claps and all this stuff, which I did twice, one by myself. It was actually affected my mental health a fair bit, because I was like, are you kidding me? I spent fucking 6 months on this and I made a mistake. And I actually struggled with that a lot, because I was like, not so much like I am a perfectionist, but I understand that music's not like that. But there was no feel the groove because everyone was there with a clipboard not giving a fuck. So I was like, you're not going to give me anything, so I have to get it perfect. And I spent a whole year learning this and made a mistake. What is wrong with me?
Yeah, man. Dude, just going back on what you said, that whole, rehearsals is for learning everyone else's parts, not your own. That is a huge thing. Like, I want to get into rehearsal and rehearse the songs that we're going to do and then get out of there. Like,
Yeah. Play through the show, like all the parts that make it a show.
Yeah.
And that's it for me. I'm done now. Yeah.
Yeah. Just efficiency, I think, would be the key word there. Like, and so sometimes, you got to glue it together. I get that. But like, if you're rocking up to rehearsals, not knowing your parts or you're never going to get to that next phase of gluing it all together. Like, and that's a huge thing. And that's just something you learn the more you do it and the more experience. Like, you're not a bad person or a bad player if you come. We've all done it.
We all have stuff on as well. Like, we've all got stuff on where we're like, I am so sorry. I haven't even touched that bridge. I know there's a big solo in there for me. I haven't even touched it. I'm going to be honest. We've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, efficiency, is because there's situations that we will find ourselves in where you got to do it. You only have like a little bit of time. So it's like, all right, I've got to be as prepared as possible, And I think, these days, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, we're spoilt with how much information we can receive. We can get, Dropbox links, emails, of recordings or charts or whatever. Like, usually now I'd say 99% of the time we have the chance and the tools at our disposal to be able to have some kind of idea of what we're doing. Unless you're rocking up, you're getting like a call on the day, hey, someone's pulled out of this session or something because they're really sick or can't do it, emergency, but we've got charts there. It's like, all right, cool, I get it. But you still got to be alert when you get there to try and digest the information as quick as possible so you can get on with it. But, most of the time these days we do have a chance, and it's like, it's a choice that we have as individuals to, you're either going to put in the extra work and, if it requires it or not. And people see that, as we do, with others, if we rock up to a rehearsal or something, and you kind of know when, well, you absolutely know when someone is on it and when they're not, and yeah, it's huge, like efficiency is key, as you know.
Absolutely. And for me, it's interesting you talk about the last minute call up thing. I've not had the last minute call up thing since I moved, where there was charts, but my sort of first baptism of fire, I put together a bit of a video thing that was sort of my experience from going from being the really shy boy in kindergarten to being someone who sort of overcame stage fright and that journey. And I did a bit of a presentation, and I put that up on YouTube as a bit of this is something that a lot of people who know me now would not even know that I was shy and things like that. I was like really shy, like wouldn't say boo to a ghost.
Yeah,
and
wow.
How to get out of that and how I got out of that and performance. And yeah, I heard you say, yeah, wow. Okay. Yeah. Noted. Put that one down. Okay. Sure. Fucking hell. Nothing sacred here. And so I know what it's like to go from that, but it was actually in high school, I remember vividly getting that 10-minute call up with sheet music to play in a concert band to play all these like symphonies. Ooh. And I'm like, sure. So I'm reading this sheet music going, I don't even know what even I know when to start. I don't know when to stop. I have no idea what this is going to sound like because I've never seen their music. I've no idea what I'm expecting. It's just written, Concerto 26. Sweet. Yeah. Couldn't look that one up on YouTube, could you? It was pretty tricky to sort of just roll into it. But then once I did that, and then the last minute thing has got a far more reasonable, like, oh, can you play these couple of Arctic Monkeys songs? Our drummer's sick. Well, that's a bit more in the wheelhouse. And then from there, I got addicted. And right now, when you were telling me about that, getting the call up and, oh, this one's sick, and the amount of times I've done gigs with between 2 and 3 hours notice, And whether it be like covers gigs or they decided they want a trio rather than a duo, interested to play on the tubs, we're just going to play some of the favorites and a couple of original tracks. Sure. I love that. That is like my favorite thing. As I've gotten more comfortable with rehearsal and how to be on my game and how to recognize when, like you say, with respect, others are not, and how to work with that, I've started to get more like, yeah, I'm happy to do that. You want someone to come up last minute? I'll be there. I'll be there tonight. I'll be there in 2 hours. You know, I've really gotten an actual like to that, like a bit of an addiction to it because I don't know, it's a bit freeing to be present because it practices being present with minimal expectations.
Absolutely. That I think the challenge that you like invite that challenge because you're confident within yourself is a huge thing. Like I think it's absolutely good to be confident in yourself, you know, like the more you do it, you got to throw yourself in the deep end, you know, like every now and then. And there you go. You, like you just said, you've just discovered something that you love. And that's awesome because, you know, for everyone, you know, we each have our own kind of thing that does that for us. And yeah, it is fun being present and you do test your skills. Okay, wow, we're going to be playing this, but like in a swing and, you know, you got to use your ears, something that you develop, something that you kind of learn in the background while you're, you know, at lessons, but, you know, you can't really physically teach someone.
I call it drum IQ.
Perfect.
I got it from Scotty Pendlebury talking about football IQ and how his disposal rate was unbelievable and
wow.
And how his footy IQ, he just knew where the ball needed to go. And I was like, I can translate that. So I see it as that. It's like, it's not necessarily a teachable thing. You can't get ahead by not playing gigs. It's something you have to be in the moment for. Maybe it comes from when, you know, I was playing fireman for however many years with dad and stuff, doing like that sort of stuff. The only adrenaline of being present, there is no other option. Nothing else is in your brain. When you're on stage in front of 200 people, pissed or otherwise, and they're expecting that you're going to get the key change at the end of Sweet Caroline because they need to go ba at the end. If you're not there, it's actually really stressful. But I found that I thrive under that sort of pressure because the pressure is really none because who cares? But also it's like, I want to get this right with sort of no frills. It's the most safe, like outwardly vulnerable, but safe test for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Man, for me, when I really learned that stuff playing in like cover bands and, you know, that we're going to do the Triple M, you know, set list tonight. You know, we're going to play everything from, you know, Mr. Brightside, some Pearl Jam, like, you know, Peppers, what, you know, like just, you know, no set list, but like, all right, we're going to do this. And you learn the vocabulary, like you learn the songs. One huge thing that is often overlooked is, you know, you getting in the moment. You know, you're finishing a song and it's pretty fast, and then, you know, you finish and then they call out the next song, and you've got to adjust in your mind. All right, I've got to slow this one down. You know, like I've got to, like that, I've got to think of the song, I've got to think of the tempo. You know, within. You know, it's sometimes not going to be perfect, but it can't be 10 BPM faster. It's got to be within a couple of, you know, because then unless it's specified, you know, being able to like switch like that is huge. And I learnt that, you know, playing in cover bands, man, like playing just songs that everyone knows and learning hundreds of songs. And, you know, some of them I might not know perfectly, but I've, you know, good enough to know, all right, this is how it starts. And then once we're playing, it's like, all right, yep, I know where we're going. And using your ears, all right, oh yeah, I forgot there was a bridge here, but I can hear it. I can hear it coming, that drum IQ, that instinct, you know. And then watching people for the finish, you know, the ending. Like, there's so many different endings. Jesse's Girl, da 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 da. You know, it's like you just gotta be aware, like, and it's just something I learned doing those cover gigs, wedding gigs, just playing covers, man. And I still do that. I love those gigs, you know, when you're playing that with a crew that's fun and can do the songs really well. And man, they're some of the most fun gigs you can do, I think, you know, if it goes to plan. And it can be the opposite too, you know, it's like, oh, we're going to learn this, we get the set list, learn these songs, and then you get there and it's like, all right, so we're not doing any of those songs. It's like, all right.
Yes.
I guess I got to go with it, but man, like I love that stuff. Yeah. But that's where I cut my teeth. I'm sure you did too. Just like doing those gigs where, even if you're playing an Owen, it's just that's where you learn that stuff early on too, So by the time you do get, some gigs that might be of, I don't know, like a different kind of style of music or for an original artist, like your awareness and all your IQ is there from all those years of, training basically. But in the moment, like live training,
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that when you said Jesse's Girl, instantly in my brain, I was thinking of another thing which is maybe not thought of. Everyone assumes that you got to know how it goes, but I think that I've found a curse, mainly because I think cover bands wise, I've predominantly played duos, trios, sort of thing.
Yep.
It's knowing how it goes so well that you have an expectation it's going to be played the same. You have to be flexible to be like, okay, there's only two of us. When I reach the ceiling of, 4 on the floor on the crash, that's it. And especially if I'm doing smaller gigs where I'm playing the F note and I got that E kit, which has certain expression but not quite the same, I have to figure out I need to start this way lower. I need to be on a much lower level to start with, because once I get to the top, it's just me and an acoustic guitar. Not really much else, not really much further to go from there. And not just playing it how it's meant to be played. I've played Learn to Fly with like 4 breakdown lower bits in it, which is not how it goes, but it's how everyone else wanted it to go. You get everyone to go, look into the sky, and everyone's singing it with you, because it's just sort of what it feels like it needs to be. And then when we get to the end, it's like, oh, we're smashing through it now. You just play it from start to finish. It sort of loses the vibe. You make Learn to Fly go for 8 minutes because everyone's loving it and they're all part of it and those sorts of things. That flexibility of the drum IQ also comes to playing it correctly, but also knowing that you're probably not going to play it by the book as the record denotes.
Correct. You got to be able to, follow and also lead the band, But yes, there's going to be, unforeseen twists and turns, and yeah, you want to learn to fly, not learn how to walk again, like just by going over and over it. You don't want to have to go back to the basics. Like you want to be able to control it. I don't really know if that made sense, but you know what
It did. I was hoping you were going to say you don't want to walk like an Egyptian, perhaps. I don't know. I was thinking, I don't know where we were going with that, but I loved it. I was like, this man's a poet. Like 2 seconds off to replace the battery, and he's giving me slam poetry on a Tuesday night.
I think so, yeah. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it.
Fantastic. Well, it's interesting. Perhaps was it poetry that got you into the King of Pop gig? Now that's a terrible segue for those playing at home. But I want to know, how did we get into this? Like, I've got a lot of mates that are in really successful tribute bands, namely the Australian Excess Show. And
yeah,
what's your sort of entrance into that? Is this just connections because you know different members of the group, or what's the go in getting in the King of Pop show?
Yeah, so there it was, there still is a like a rehearsal space not far from me. GM Sound Studios used to have a jam night, like quite regularly. I can't talk. I was starting. Man, I don't know what's in this water. I tell you, but.
I'm on the heavies. I'm on Marvel-themed Coke, not no sugar, full strength.
Yeah, full strength.
I'm sure you can hear that's coming out in my words.
Yeah. No, so there's a rehearsal studios near me, and they would have jam nights like every week on Thursdays, and I believe at that time I had already met the keys player and one of the backing vocalists, Daniel and Alyssa Agius, who I also play for in their cover band Unlimited. Fantastic. It was I either just met them or something like that. But at one of these jam nights, I met Tom Capella, who is MJ in the show, who is also a great drummer. And I remember. I can't remember exactly what, but we ended up. I knew of him because the show had been going, and a good friend of mine, fantastic drummer at that time, was playing the show by the name of Carlo Parisi, another fantastic drummer from Melbourne, huge sought after session drummer. And I remember we got along because not only was he a drummer, but he's a massive fan of Toto. So, I'm a massive Toto fan. So we got talking and also Michael Jackson fan as well. So we got talking, and I realized that he was the one that had this King of Pop show, and I was always had wanted to play it. And then, I think it was the end of 2017. I got a call from Tom, basically to say that Carlo, he was unable to do the gig, so they needed to fill in. And I think he had seen some videos, and just by judging, that we became like, mates straight away. I think he just knew like this is the kind of guy that would be good to do the show if he's going to learn it. He loves Toto. Obviously, Toto had a massive impact on MJ's music, Thriller, Writing Human Nature, just to name a few. And also I'd loved MJ, so he called me, and I did one fill-in show, and I think by then Carlo had been moving on to some other gigs or something like that, and then it just kind of stuck, and then that's how it kind of all happened. And the band was pretty different at that stage. There's probably, besides a few of the dancers, myself and Daniel and Alyssa. So Daniel plays keys, Alyssa does BVs. Pretty much everyone else in the band at that stage was there was like other members, and so it's gone through a few changes over the years. But man, like it's just at this level now where it's just grown. It was already at a high level, but like last year we sold out the State Theatre in Sydney. We went to WA. We went all over the place. We just did 3 sold out shows at the Palms in Melbourne. Where and Her Majesty's Theatre, which actually Her Majesty's that I played the other night was the first gig that I did back in 2017. It was in Adelaide at that same theatre. And we're looking at doing the Palais next year in Melbourne, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. We've done a few international dates as well. They were heaps of fun. So that's how it kind of happened basically. Like I had met Tom at like a jam night, and we just we just started chatting about drums and MJ and Toto, and then it just happened to be, and like obviously filling in because the other drummer couldn't do it. Like it just happened to work out, and I mean ever since then, man, like we don't play as regularly as some other gigs that I do, but all the shows that we do are pretty massive, and it's only getting bigger. And next year is going to be a really, really big year, considering that there's going to be a Michael Jackson biopic movie coming out, similar to the Bohemian Rhapsody movie about Queen. So there's one about MJ with MJ's nephew playing Michael, which is going to be huge. So next year is going to be big year for us. So we should be coming to your town and everywhere else. And yeah, man, that show is so much fun. Like it's just all pocket, and there's, it's a 2-hour show, including an interval, but like every song is a hit, and there's still ones that we have to leave out. Cause it's just, you go any longer and mate, people just fall over. I reckon.
I get that though. Like my boys in the Australian Excess show, they actually do a 14-minute medley of just songs that they love, but they just couldn't include, just because.
Yep.
Like we've only got tonight, like think about everything that In Excess have touched that you know of, plus a couple of the B-sides, Yeah, and their show is that sort of length as well. But rather than interval, Rob and Del just do a acoustic and vocal thing.
Nice.
For 3 songs, and then they each have their solo section where Del actually gets to stop for a bit. But outside of that, it's just go, and it's it's the full Wembley experience. It's the same thing as what the King of Pop show is doing. It's that stadium level performance, and like it's the big. They're doing theaters. That's what they're doing. They're doing theaters. They're doing theater runs, and I can't wait to see you guys up here, either Brizzy, Sunny Coast, however high you want to get. The station's a great place. So we played there with Delacombe the other day for their look at. I think it's I'm probably mauling this, but I want to say like 1,000 or maybe 1,100 or something, which are your sort of numbers. Yeah. And it'd be phenomenal to see up here very soon doing that, because it's a show I definitely want to see that show up here very soon.
Oh man, would love to come up. Like it's heaps of fun, man. It's just, and the drum parts are like, it's all the live versions. So while the drums is so important because of all the dance breaks and the hits, like, and there's so many like hits that are very similar. And it's a show that I haven't charted. I've never charted it just because I don't really chart things, to be honest. But with something like that, it would be, I feel like it could be useful because there's so many little things. But I feel like to get that feel down, I wouldn't be able to read something like that. I just got to play it and feel it and learn it. But it's something like we were speaking before, when we have a break, quite a couple months in between shows, I do have to go over it again because there's just so many little things. But it comes back now. It's like I know it like back of my hand. Like we don't even really rehearse anymore. We'll rehearse once if we haven't done it in a year, But everyone knows their parts, and is on board with that, which makes it a lot easier. But man, the drum parts are just awesome. And I was very fortunate enough to actually speak to Jonathan Moffat about it, which was huge. Man, I just messaged him on Instagram. Honestly, like, he's the nicest guy. And
oh, that's right. I remember seeing that. They just shot a message. Like, why not?
Yeah, why not? He is the perfect example of a fantastic player who has played with Michael Jackson, Madonna, so many others, like, the biggest pop stars in history. And he, he might take a little while to respond, of course, but he will respond with love. And he's seen the show. I've sent him clips, and I asked him questions about how to play the Jackson 5 song, Shake Your Body. And he explains in a few videos on YouTube. It's kind of like this overdubbed part, and I think it was one of the reasons as to why he was hired, because when he was going for the audition, Michael quizzed him, can you play Shake Your Body? And basically it's like a groove, and then there's like a tom part that's been overdubbed on top. So it's like two drum parts at once, and Moffat played it. And Michael was like, man, no one's ever been able to play that like live, because it wasn't one drummer and one take, it was an overdub. And that was one of the reasons why he was hired and played for Michael for over 30 years. And so I asked him about that because Jonathan Moffat was actually one of the first guys in the 90s to have a drum cam on stage. Have you seen any of the History Tour drum cam footage in the 90s?
I haven't. I need to go through the archives. I never squeeze.
Dude, there's some stuff on YouTube that he has released, and he's got a drum cam from the History Tour in the 90s. And like, that was unheard of. He was probably one of the first guys to do that. So he's got this footage, and I could watch him kind of like the footage that I just put up the other night, like, but back in the 90s of the actual show of him playing. And I was watching how he was playing this part. So I did quiz him about a few questions, and he answered, and it was awesome. And even Jennifer Batten, who played the guitarist, the female guitarist of MJ with the big blonde hair in the 80s, she's currently doing a Brazilian Michael Jackson tribute show. And I was speaking to her the other day saying, hopefully we can get you out to Australia. And she was like, yeah, absolutely, would love to come down. So these people, like, who have done it for real, man, they're nice people, and like, it just goes to show, if you're nice to someone, you generally receive it back. And that was a huge thing, man. Like, but being able to speak to these people who've done the real thing, it's like incredible. And you know, like that's the thing. That's the power of the internet and Instagram and the socials now too. Is it can be toxic, absolutely, but if you use it, you know, with intention and positivity and like, you know, focus, you can get a lot out of it, and you know, like stuff that people could only dream of back, you know, before we were born. You know, it's just you can connect with people wherever they are in the world, send videos.
Well, that intention to connect is, I love that. Like what is the rule that says you can't have a go? Like, that's exactly what you did. You said, I have a question. I know how to find this person. What's the worst that could happen? Like, nothing could happen potentially. Oh, well, like, that's totally fine.
Absolutely. You got to go for it, man. Like, why not? As you said, like, nothing bad is going to happen if you just give it a go, you know, and sometimes it takes a few times, you know, that's fine. But, you know, if you keep trying and you just keep going, like, you won't fail. You won't fail. It might take you longer than maybe anticipated, but you literally can't fail if you just keep going. Like, eventually things will happen. And that's what I tell a lot of people. I know it's hard. I know I've been there before. You know, it sometimes sounds a little bit too optimistic, but it's true. Like, if you don't give up, you will get something out of it, even if it takes you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You know, there's Rich Redman, you know of Rich Redman, great drummer who plays for Jason Aldean. I'm pretty sure he got his first big break when he was like 40 years old. Not 20, not 15, not 35, 40. You know, he was playing in so many bands in the 90s, over 30 bands or something, just hustling and, you know, making money, doing his thing. But for whatever reason, I mean, I think he was comfortable too. He was happy. He's like, man, like if I don't go and play an arena show, I'm still happy and I know I've still made it because I'm playing gigs every night of the week. But, you know, at 40 years old or something like that, something around that age, like older than what a lot of people, you know, other people you might hear of, was when he got his first big gig and he's still doing it, man. And it's like awesome. It's like such a, you know, it's such a good story, like example of just never giving up and being content with where you are too. Like, you know, playing to a room of 100 people or even 10 people that are there to see you, man, I honestly prefer that rather than playing to 10,000 people or 100,000 people that are just, you know, like they're there, but they're not really engaged. Like we were saying before, like going back to the start of the podcast, like, you know, if you can have an impact on someone, even if it's one person, like that's success to me. That's cool. You know, that is something that could potentially lead to other things. You know, not numbers, not quantity. Like that means nothing. Followers on Instagram, followers on TikTok, whatever it is, like, that's cool, it looks good, but we all know that unfortunately they can also be bought as well, and it's just for looks. So it's about the quality rather than the quantity, you know. That just took a deep turn.
No, but what are you behind the vanity metrics? Like, because that's what it is. Like, it's the views or the whatever it is. What are you behind the vanity metrics? And that's the thing is I look at a lot of people who, you know, well exceed, they chomp on the numbers that I do on things. But I know that you know, when I look at the podcast, now that I've put it on Apple and Spotify, I see my YouTube numbers have dropped because a lot of people prefer to listen on those platforms, which is cool. But when I look at it and I talk about how I am super proud of this show and what's happened and how you should be super proud of the things you've done, whether it be small, large, or otherwise, I look at it and go, yeah, there's 23 views on this, you know, maybe 65 listens on Apple and 65 listens on Spotify. That's cool. But I don't look at that and go, oh my God, it's 23 people on YouTube. That's a bit not really successful. I go, 23 people watched that.
Yeah.
23 individual people watched that. And then when I was doing a podcast a couple of episodes back, and then I went to a gig the other night, and one of my good mates, Josiah's like, oh, Bailey, just letting you know, that podcast the other night, I listened to it. Really good episode. Yeah. I was like, sweet, you've just paid for itself. Like, I don't care if there was 450 million people on that. You took your time out of your day to say, I'd just like to say, just before you go any further, I thought that was really good. And that's Christmas. Like, yeah.
Absolutely, bro.
It absolutely is. And to completely accept what you're saying on the 10 people who are engaged to 100,000 people who aren't. Segue is the better segue.
Great. Love
You're
it.
supporting Coldplay. The floor is yours.
Yes. Oh, man. Yeah. Dude. It's still a bit surreal to think of. But yes, with a good friend of mine who I've known since high school, Emmanuel Kelly, he's the artist that I've been playing drums for. Man, he got the opportunity to open for Coldplay around Australia and New Zealand later this year, and it's incredible. But you know what? It's actually it's incredible, but I do believe it because I'm not sure if you know of Emmanuel, but he was on, I believe, the same year X Factor as Reese Maston. I think it was like 2011 or something.
I was just going to say, 2011, yep.
Yeah, there you go. And he's what he calls differently abled. He was found in a war zone as a baby in the Middle East somewhere, and in a shoebox. Anyway, consequences of that being born in a war zone. He's differently able-bodied, and he came here and was adopted by Moira Kelly, fantastic woman, and took him in and raised him. And Emmanuel's an amazing singer and talent in general, and human being in general. And he went on the show, and he was, basically a pretty big hit because he was, not just a singer like everyone else on the show, but there was something unique about him, and he was an inspiration for so many others that hadn't or haven't had that platform before. So over time, that just developed, and he's got such a great personality. He's bigger than life, and I ended up being in the same music course as him in high school. So we became mates, and I played a few gigs with him about probably 11, 12 years ago now. And then we just lost contact after that. I can't really remember why or how, but we lost contact. And anyway, during that time, he's a very, very driven person, and I can't remember exactly how, but he got in contact with Chris Martin of Coldplay, and they became buddies. And Emmanuel has done a few shows already with Chris, whether it be some gigs or some more corporate event kind of things. And Emmanuel was telling me, Chris said to him all those years ago when they first kind of became friends, one day when you've got your songs ready and all that, I'd love you to come on tour and support me. And man, Chris came through with it. And all these years later, so Emmanuel and I had just lost contact for whatever reason. And a good buddy of mine, Rob Sedke, who is on guitar for this show and a brilliant guitarist, brilliant composer, and he's also going to be the MD for these shows. We knew we had met through the music business over the last few years, and I didn't know that he had worked with Emmanuel within the last decade that Emmanuel and I had lost contact, and vice versa. He didn't know that I had worked with Emmanuel back when we were in high school, and he I got a call from Rob like at the start of this year saying, "Hey man, there's a friend of ours that I just realized we both know that wants to get back in contact with you about a pretty cool opportunity." I said, and he kind of kept it a little bit of a mysterious, which I kind of like because I like surprises. And
yeah. What sort of cool opportunity are you talking here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just so happened to be. Anyway, I got a call from Emmanuel, and it was like, "Bro, how are you?" And he's like, "Man, we lost contact. I couldn't remember like your last name. I didn't have like a phone number anymore, but I knew Rob, and I said, hey, I've got these gigs coming up. There's this drummer I would love to have if we've got the opportunity to have a drummer. And Rob goes, yeah. Who is it? And Emmanuel's like, he's from here. His name's Leon. And Rob goes, curly haired Leon. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, oh man, we're talking about the same person. No way.
Perfect. I know.
And then we had a meeting. I spoke to Emmanuel, and then he goes, yeah, man. He filled me in about the whole relationship that he's got with Chris. And yeah, basically said, I'm going on tour with Coldplay. It's happening. 10 years later, man, I want you to be in the band. It was just like, phew.
That's so special.
Like that's so cool. And man, so, as we speak, I'm getting, I've got the music early, which is awesome. And, now that I've had a few shows pass, recently, now I'm starting on the new music for it because I can focus on that, and any shows coming up, all of the Reese stuff I already know, and any of the King of Pop stuff, I've already got that locked in. So now it's like going back to what we were talking about before. Now I'm happy to focus directly on, Emmanuel's songs for the tour, which will start very end of October and go to like the second half of November. So still plenty of time, but also necessary, just because it's not so much the music that we've got to really focus on. It's also just putting the show together, because it is huge, and the music is going to be blaring through the speakers at Marvel Stadium to 80,000 people. So it's like, man, we got this opportunity. Let's smash it. I mean, you really can't get any bigger than that. So, anyway, I'm just blabbering on now, but yeah,
no, that's so exciting. I actually had a similar moment, not at the same level, but we used that connection thing talking about, when, like I've mentioned before in passing, but just to do a quick little drive-by, the Delacoma US tour that we did, it was born out of essentially me saying, no, I can't play with you right now because I was too busy with other things. Things fell through. I became available. I said, Del, get on the pod. He's standing on my kitchen bench saying, I want to go to America this year. Let's see what we can make happen. He hit up the guy who recorded on Noel, who plays in the INXS band, who recorded on the album. He wasn't able to make it work. He said, but I'd love you to be a part of it. And then skip ahead to, we come back just before we do some shows in Early Beach and Gladstone and touring with the Justice Trio with his brother. Massive web of stories to tell there. But skip ahead to me getting a phone call just before I drove to Early with the boys the night before. He's like, I was really letting know, Bailey, I'm, after this many years and stuff like that, I want to be 80, and I want to say Bailey Walker's drummed for me for 40 years. And I was awesome, like, man. That's pretty special.
Yeah.
And that feels very special to me. And those sorts of words, that goes more than just hitting the tubs, more than just being a good hang. That's a very special relationship, and to have that connection, like you said, reconnected and going, oh, if I'm playing in front of Coldplay, I'll play Taylor Swift's fucking Laundry. But if I'm doing it, Leon's there. He's coming. That's you can't put a price on that.
Oh, absolutely, man. And it goes back to, staying humble and doing your best, and being kind to people. Like, it wasn't necessarily, it probably wasn't necessarily because of the drumming that Emmanuel thought of me. It was more the hangs that we used to have, and man, like, he was good to be around, and also, he could play drums really well. And those two things, like we were speaking about at the very start, like, you don't know what's going to happen later down the line. Like, this is literally 10 years in the making, basically. If someone told me back then that we'd be supporting Coldplay all these years later, I was thinking about this the other day. I would be like, oh, no way. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But then I was also thinking, no, without sounding cocky, it's like, no, I do believe it because, my one thing, like I said before, is just, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you just got to be aware that what you do and, your actions have consequences. It's just like what you put up online. It's the same thing. People in person remember that as well, and you're going to give yourself more chances of, cooler opportunities by being aware of those things. Even when you're feeling down, you know, I've been there. Like sometimes things just don't work and aren't working out. And, you know, it's easy to get frustrated, but try your best to hold on because you don't know who is, you know, around you that's feeling that energy, that sees that, and vice versa. And, you know, opportunities come up because of that as well. You know, it's not just the playing, it's like, you know, who you are as a person, man. And yeah, it was pretty crazy, man. I mean, like you were saying, dude, I mean, how good is it knowing that someone cares about you, not only because you're playing, but as a person, you know, like that's huge, man. Like that's, man, if that's the only thing you get out of it, well, then that's good enough, man.
That's success. That's as close to success.jpg, you know, in the internet. You know, that's as pretty good, you know, you know, hallmark of success.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
That's awesome, man. Like I'm stoked to hear that and stoked to see how buzzing you are, and the fact that the story's nice is just honestly just wraps that up in a nice bow, a nice bonus, really. But I think it as you said, as I'm going to say, it's a credit to the kind of person you are, how you conduct yourself, which are the things that you're in control of as well, which is cool because everyone's in control of it, but some people just don't do it. And it's a credit to who you are as a player, as a person, as a community figure. And as you say, it's essentially becoming memorable. You don't think of yourself as memorable, but things you do that you may have thought were nothing, they're not nothing to everyone. They're often something really strong for a lot of people, and it's a pleasure to know, and I'm very excited to catch up and share a quiet or not so quiet ale when you're up here with whatever show it is. This year, hopefully, whilst you're in amongst things before or after Coldplay, that would be an absolute pleasure. But for now, tell the lovely people where they can find you and, you know, websites and social media and all that cool stuff. Where can they find you?
Well, conveniently, I published my website today.
I know. I was gonna. That's why I said websites. I was like, plug the site, brother.
Yeah. I was like, man, if I'm gonna do it, that's gonna be my deadline. So, yeah, just www.leon.
Wow, that was like the guy that says this summer.
Yeah.
You know. Are you that guy?
I am that guy. Hang on, I got to get my voice in.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, go on.
This summer. That was a bit, you know.
Literal chills. Like literal chills.
Bailey Walker. Something like that. I'm not really that guy. That was really bad. I find that if I'm a little bit sick and my throat's a little bit rusty, it sounds better. So I won't push it.
No, that's fine. Yeah, don't get yourself feel. We've got too many things on. But yes, the website, the socials, tell the lovely people where they can find Mr. Positivity, the film trailer guy.
Yeah, so my website, www.leonkechayas, so KECHAYAS.com. And then on Instagram, same thing, at Leon Kechayas. YouTube, at Leon Kechayas Drums, if you're going to write it in the URL. If not, just type up my name and you'll see a little curly-headed drummer. That's me.
Yeah, by the third time, if you figured out how to take a Kechayas by the third time, then you're batting 100. You're already doing great. So
yeah. And I do have TikTok, but I'm not really active on there. But I caved in and made one, and you know who knows where that's going to go. But
I didn't even cave in, mate. I've actually got Erin posting for me at the minute. It's this new thing where she was using it. She was not using her account. I didn't want to be a part of it, and all her friends were saying, why is Bradley on TikTok? He'd do great on there with his drum videos and his sketches. And I was like, sure. And she's like, I'll just post for you. So I've just got a Google Drive folder of all these things I've posted on other platforms, and she's just progressively going through. And yeah, so if you want to follow at baileydrummer on TikTok, beware, because I don't know the fucking caption she's putting up. It's who knows, mate.
I'm gonna
I don't endorse.
I'm gonna go on it after this. That's awesome.
Okay, yeah, dude. As your first thing you've done in 3 months of TikTok, give us a follow on TikTok. That'd be nice.
Done. I'm there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. We could go for hours, and I'd like to another time. Yes. It's just been an absolute pleasure. So, yeah, look, so many exciting things happening with you. It's a credit to you and the community and the family and the growth that you foster and build and are a part of. And, yeah, the music industry, as I said to Jed, I said to all these really strong figures that you know and that you love, that need more people like you. So keep doing what you're doing and, yeah, just be yourself, mate, because you're killing it.
Oh, man, that means a lot, bro. Appreciate that. Straight back at you, man. This podcast, just you're playing everything. It's huge. It's really helping the community, and it's just good vibes all around, man. We need more of this. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's an honor, and can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely. Well, absolute pleasure. Well, guys, that is another episode of the Ask Muso podcast. This was an absolute hoot. Drummer, Muso, no Muso, whatever, you would have enjoyed this because, Leon, look, if you're not in a coma right now, I bet you are loving this episode. Absolutely loving it. We had a couple of battery changes, couple of camera changes. I should have expected that because he's not shy at all that this was going to go for a while. And yeah, you know what to do. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the places you know where to find these things. And until next time, I'll see you later.